Hello, Eclectic Rapper here. It's been a while. I'm so sorry. Yes, I know. Today, I'm going to make some clothing labels. So, I'm going to give you a tip right off the bat. When you buy fabric and you roll it up on boards, if it's not easy to tell exactly what it is, I mean, say it's calico or, quilting fabric, you're going to know, oh, you at a glance, oh, yeah, I only buy that stuff in cotton. But when you have straight white fabric that you buy in multiple types of fabric, I bought some that was a poly cotton for sublimating on, and of course I have my straight cotton. I was using it as a lining in sleeping mat. I'm sorry. In the face masks when we were all making face masks for everyone. So I had a very large bundle of that straight cotton. This, I'm not sure what it is. I do believe that it is poly cotton, but I can't tell you for sure. I have 2 rooms full of fabric. I really, on my budget, can't afford to go out and buy new just to be able to say, I know this is exactly cut. We're going to do this, and I'm going to tell you, if you have some white cotton, experiment. Try a little piece on it. I've printed out, this is my store name, Vestra Era, and I spaced it how far I want it so that I can fold the fabric up. So it's a folded label, not a frayed. And we're going to put it on this fabric and make clothing labels with it. I am not using anything fancy for it. If you wanted, you could actually do this on a white satin. I've done it on white ribbon. The satin ribbon is 100% polyester and takes this really well. I will tell you, of course it depends upon your heat press. And I splurged and bought myself a new, still inexpensive, heat press. And it works differently than the old one because the old one was really weird. It was very sporadic. But in the same sense, I'm having to test different temperatures out. So you have to test anyways, no matter what you're using, what fabric, what printer you're printing out with. Everything has variables. I'm going to first just give a little press. I've got this where it's actually medium pressure when I push it down, but since I've stopped working, since I hurt my back, it feels like a little, stiff there when I try to do a little bit more strenuous things. I'm just trying to get those wrinkles out. And now, you want to print at least a day in advance. I printed this last night, and I actually used a blow dryer on it because I was going to do this all last night, and then I thought, you get a lot, they call it ghosting. It's literally the ink running if you do this without it being dry. And these people that say, I put it under and I just kind of hold it close, but the ink is created in a way so that it will liquefy and go into the fabric. So when I hold the heat close to it, I end up with more ghosting. It seems to work for them on the videos I've seen, but it does not work for me. So I'm not going to try that. You do not want to put it on the selvage. I didn't cut the selvage off. Let me grab, I'm sorry. I'm leaning into the everything. I'm just leaning into everything. I'm going to tape it right. I cover the top and the bottom with Teflon sheets. It's just the way I do it. It automatically has the barrier that way, but I have a pack of legal paper, copy paper, and when I put my room back together, I didn't find my parchment paper. It was just a little box, you know, that you buy in the store, roll. And there is a box of stuff, obviously, still somewhere in this house, put away to be out of the way. Because I'm also missing 2 of the hoops for my baby lock. And the parchment paper must be in that. So I have switched over to just grabbing a piece of the legal because I never use it. The laser printer said that it would print it, but I can't actually put it in the drawer. And when I tried putting it in the little slot, it didn't, it got mad and told me it was the wrong paper. So, it doesn't get used for anything. I'll use it for this. It works. The nice thing about this is that the timer automatically turns on 1 minute and it will be set. It actually is really well set. I had done another one and I did an old printout to test the whole thing. The labels are just for my clothing that I'm making myself, so I wasn't worried about it having my old font. And I will actually sew those first. I'm printing this out to show you. I printed this out and I'm ironing it on so I can show you the process. But this I won't use yet. I'm still going to show you the whole process. And done. See, it pops so hard that the stuff ends up moving. Woohoo! That is womish. I can just faintly see the words in there. Don't save the paper. I mean, when you get down to it, this paper is what, 2 cents? Not worth losing something over. I've taped it right to this. Ta-da! And now we will move. Now, your sheet, some people save them because, ooh, it looks like so much ink. But by my calculations, and believe me, I'm a senior citizen on a disability payment, which, you know, is nothing. So I am careful with my money. I still don't try to use them again. To me, it's not worth the fabric that actually costs so much money. This, I've done one refill on my printer, you know, the initial filling, and it's a year later. I don't do this professionally. I do not do sublimation on shirts to sell. So this is all just, you know, for fun, maybe to make a video, and mostly for me and my younger son, because we love having clothes that we've customized. So for me, I can throw this away. I'm throwing out like 5 cents. For someone that, here's my ruler, that is doing this professionally and is just getting started, I can see where maybe they would want to hold on to it, try it again. I personally feel that the fabric costs too much to do that. Now on the bottom, you're going to want to make sure you've got plenty of room. I calculate 1 inch for the bottom. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to go across. And now I just used Publisher and put them in and tried to line them up as close as possible, but it's not an exact science in Publisher. Or if it is, I didn't learn the trick. So I used the ruler, go 1 inch below the line. See, I just match up that line to the bottom of the font, the printout, and then I go. Save that little chunk for something else. I'm going to make a mixer cover, and I can't decide if I want to put the Cookie Monster on it. Oh, I gotta show you this. I gotta show you this. I printed them both out. So, are you making cookies with the Cookie Monster peeking over? I've always thought the Cookie Monster was so cute. And then, of course, there's the mixer, and I have to read it backwards. So, good things come to those who bake. And I don't know. I liked it. So I'm trying to decide, and I actually think I'm going to make it reversible so that I can have one on the inside and one on the outside, and if I feel like having the mixer show today, I can just turn it inside out. It's so cute. I'll iron that onto some white fabric and then put it right onto the one I'm making, fit it into it like a quilt. So we're going to go 1 inch below. Nope. Sorry. Okay. Now I know this is upside down to you. It's not, I can do it this way. The fabric, though it looks straight, when you lay it down, it's not necessarily straight. So the way I have mine set up, it's I have a 1/2 inch on either side. I need my trash can out here. I like having one right on the other side of me. So there's a 1 inch gap in the middle. I simply made columns and did it that way. I'm sorry, I said I used Publisher. I used Word because I wanted to do the columns, and now that I think about it, I did use Word, not Publisher, to do this particular thing. And I just set it up with 4 columns, and the distance between on the inside is 1 inch. I had a 1/2 inch margins to make sure that I have it 1/2 inch on each side. And then I did 3 spaces at, well, with this font it was an 18, size 18, and that's on the 4th one. So 1, 2, 3, and then the 4th one, and that worked out for me. If you use a different font or a different program, you might even want your labels bigger or smaller. This is just how it worked for me. But you want to go back and do it from each side. And then we can take that to the sewing machine and seam up the sides before cutting our individual labels out. Nice little shortcut. You can cut them to individuals. I have some that I've cut individuals. This is some from my individual cuttings. And with these, I think what I'm going to do, instead of worrying about folding up the side, if you want to fold in the sides so that you have no fray showing on the outside, I would suggest doing it in a long length, because it's easier to control. When you've got tiny little pieces like that and you're trying to fold them each one under, you are more apt to have it get sucked down the side. If you're going to do this, make sure you use a scrap piece at the beginning and keep them close, and you still might have it get pulled down inside. Use a straight stitch and a straight stitch plate, which has just one tiny little hole for the needle to go straight down into. That is to prevent your fabric from getting pulled down inside. But I never change my plate out. I will forget that I've changed my plate out. I know me, I tend to be forgetful. So these individuals here, even though I cut them to the same size as that, what I will do, I will sew around the edges, and I'll just do one to show you. And then I'm going to turn around and cut a little closer to the seam. Once it's sewn down and all the way around it, I will cut it closer. They're just for me. It doesn't matter if I waste one. So then, if it has, we'll just use an ink pen as a sewing machine. So if I go down and I sew along, we'll just sew a straight stitch all the way around it. This part is going to go up inside of the seam. If you're going to sew it on top, you can sew it all the way around. But you're going to want to sew it down before you trim it down, before you do any of this, if you're wanting it on top, because of the simple fact that trying to get a second stitch line exactly where the first stitch line was, if you can do it and it stays there all the way around it, you are a much better seamstress than me, and you probably shouldn't be watching my video. I would probably make you mess up more than you would on your own. I cannot do exactly on the same stitch line. I can't even draw a quilt line and stay exactly on it. I don't actually know anyone that can. As you can see from this, you can leave it so it'll fray. Just, you want to cut it close, and if it's sewn down afterwards, these are applique scissors. So the idea is that you get this up under your fabric and it helps hold it up away. Now it still will cut your under fabric if you get it caught in there, but it's supposed to help you to lift it up so you can tilt, and then you can cut close to a seam. It's just not as exact. See, it's more crooked. But now we're going to go to the sewing machine and we're going to sew up the edges and make a seamed. So when it's done, you will have multiples that you can cut out like this. As you can see in my new font, it comes out bigger, it comes out, I think, a little clearer. And I like purple, so it's actually maroon, but I like that color. So please follow me over to my sewing machine. After I've cut them into strips, I will take them, and you can iron them to keep them in place exactly how you're wanting. But we're just going to stitch down the side. And if you wanted, you could probably do a decorative stitch. If you've ironed it in place, of course you do it from the front side. I'm doing it from the back because I'm doing it, no. Don't start from the edge. Grab a piece of scrap. Start on that. See, if you're not, when you're filming, you're thinking more about the filming, I think. And let's see if that, there we go. If you use a piece of scrap fabric and then sew right into it, you don't end up with your edge pulled down inside. It does help. And of course, another way is to use a, get a fine line fusible. They actually have it in like a squeeze pen kind of a thing, glue kind of a thing. Also, you can get them in 1/4-inch strip rolls. I'm sorry. You can get it in a 1/4-inch roll and run it down and iron it into place and it'll stay. And these are actually for my personal use. Any banging or anything you hear, you know, please ignore. My husband's installing a fence. He moved our garden from the west side of our lots to the east side of our lots, which happens to be right outside of my workroom window that I can't actually get to easily to close, and the fresh air is nice. So I thought, what little noise you'll hear over the sewing machine, hopefully I'll be forgiven for. Life happens. If we're lucky, it does. And I'm just gonna give that a little clip. I'll tell you, if you sew, grabbing a big pair of scissors to cut your little threads takes more effort. Get some thread snips, and that's what they're called, thread snips. And I have used these all my life. My stepmother had them, so I've never sewn any other way. But they're smaller. I like the kind with the little finger hole. They do make them without, but I like being able to put my finger in it and hold on to it a little snugger. They work, of course, for absolutely everything. If you iron it, then it's exact. If you don't, it's not. By ironing it, you can make sure that it's all exactly where you want it. This is for my clothing I'm about to make for myself. So, I'm not going to worry about exact. My machine does an automatic back stitch at the beginning, and I, of course, don't have that in these, because I'm using a long strip, not doing individuals. And it still won't matter because it's going to be folded over. Then I'll press it in place and the tops will be sewn in. I've got it cut so that there's a 1/2 inch on each side. That gives me that 1/4 inch fold over. I just snip my little rag off. But now, let me slide this back out of the way. I love this old countertop. This was from actually a hotel. My husband had made a sewing table with big drawers. And oh wow, did I have a lot in those drawers. When we went to put the flooring in, I had to empty everything out of the room, right? Everything came out of the drawers because I asked him to redo the table, make it a little shorter so that I can actually get into the bottom shelf of my shelving unit. And I bought roll-around drawer units. You can put the wheels on or not. One has no wheels on it. It's stationary, stuck down at the end. But this way I can actually use the whole table. There's no drawer units. But this top, and yeah, that is from where they had attached the television to the top of the unit. It was a long dresser unit in a very old hotel that closed down. But the great thing is and I have done this for a long time. You can cut right on this. I have cut on it for years. I have this little tiny piece of a cutting mat that I had trimmed off because I had glued it onto something. And, ooh, I got spray glue on it. I'll have to clean that. And I pop it up under my sewing machine so that I can use that. But I can also, I have used the top of this for 20 years, and it's never affected it. Alright, I digress. So, the way I cut this, I wanted there to be so much room underneath it. So, I know that from the top edge, I want a 1/2 inch because I want to be able to slide it in at least a 1/2 inch. So if I go through and I just match up the top of the lettering at a 1/2 inch, the fold up should be plenty because this is a double layer. I'm going to fold it under so there'll be no ragged ends. If you want that ragged effect, then you can cut it closer and sew around the whole thing. But I can cut this and fold this. Now I can iron it. Now I'm actually going to take it. This is the bottom of the row, so it's got a little extra space underneath it. But I just print out a whole sheet and then I cut them to the way I want them. So I cut lengthwise the way I want them. Which is a repeat. I'm sorry. But now I can just iron that into the... I need the label because if I don't put a label in a shirt when I'm making it, when I grab it, I have to sit there and look, wait, is this the front or the back? If it's, you know, pretty similar, front to back. I've got a pajama top. I took a permanent marker and drew a line on the inside at the neckline because the front and the back are so similar that at a glance you can't tell. And it's raglan sleeve, you know. So for ease, I'm just, and I had labels, I just didn't think about putting it in. So I'm making some pull-on pants, and again, when you just glance at them and go to put them on, the pockets are side pockets, and it'll be sewn in, and I can look inside and tell from where the pocket is sewn in at the waistline, oh, that's the front. But you can feel a tag in the back of your pants. Just makes a little more sense to me. Plus it looks a little more finished. So that's my tiny little label. I thank you for coming back and visiting me. I know it's been a long time since I've been on.